Hey friends, this is Ron with Ron's Weekly Windup again, and this is the end of October. It's 10/29/25. I'm joined with Bryan Hyde, our media specialist here at Idaho Freedom Foundation, and want to get into another windup. We won't take too long, but we got a lot of things going on in Idaho, and here's just a sampling of what's been going on and what is coming up.
There's a lot of talk, Ron, about SNAP benefits and how the hungry and those who are of low income, are really suffering because of government cuts as well as the federal government shutdown. Tell me what you're hearing.
Yeah, well, the SNAP program is a federal program. And so when the federal government shuts down, you know what they always do? They always try and pick out the most painful programs to cut or stop or pause during a shutdown. And so they are telling states that the SNAP benefits will cease. Well, the SNAP program is administered by the states, but it's fully funded by the federal government. So if the federal government cuts it off, the states either need to pony up the money themselves or nobody gets the benefits. And this was jaw-dropping to me. 42 million folks on SNAP, 42 million. It, that exposes a big problem we have. That if we have a SNAP program that is feeding 42 million Americans, we have a different problem than a government shutdown. This is that we have created dependency. We've created a socialist system, and the states ought to look to get off of this. We ought to put it to individuals, families, communities, churches to take care of those in need. Because right now, SNAP is being utilized by a lot of folks who are otherwise able-bodied, who could provide for themselves, but they instead live off of this government program. In fact, I saw a post that said, "Hey, you know what? If they're cutting off our SNAP benefits, let's just go and shoplift what we need from Walmart." So everyone shoplift at the same time. They can't stop us all. Well, if that's the case, they would be stealing. And it also highlights the fact that they kind of justified the stealing because they've been allowed to steal from other Americans through a program like this.
Okay, we got our work cut out there. Talk
Yeah.
to me about what Doge is doing in Idaho. I know the task force met again here recently. What did they come up with?
Well, one of the recommendations, and they haven't come up with many recommendations. They've kicked a lot of things around, but the one recommendation that I've seen is that they want to defund the full-time employment positions which have not been filled in the various agencies. So I think it totals 381 positions that have not been filled. And so it's easy to defund those because there's no checks being written out. And so it just comes out of the budgeting. But the idea that there's 381 positions that haven't been filled, yet government seems to be working okay, makes
Hmm,
me think those positions aren't needed, right?
you don't say. Now, we have an election coming up this year. I know this is not as big or as sexy as the general election, but there's a lot of important stuff that's taking place, including questions about levies and so forth. Talk to me about levy gamesmanship, especially during a non sexy election year.
Well, you see school districts doing levy elections. You see cities doing some levy votes. In Boise here, you see all around town. Yes, for clean water and open spaces. Really, they want to recontinue a levy that's $5.5 million a year for 2 years to clean up the riverbanks and the bike paths and the open spaces. And this is a city that increased its pay for employees and by 14 million. The Boise School District increased property taxes by 30 million, and now they want another 5.5 million a year. The levy game is just too much. And here's the gamesmanship going on with school districts. The bill passed last year, maybe the year before, on the public schools facilities fund. And what that is designed to do is take pressure off of property taxpayers by giving districts part of their levy expenses. And so now districts are saying, let's run a levy. And if we pass this, we don't have to pay for all of it because the state is going to pay for some of it. So they're gaming the system, trying to get more levies passed because they don't have to pay for all of it. Uh, an economist could have predicted this. It's called unintended consequences.
Here, here. Talk to me about what the parental rights task force has been up to. I know I saw that in the news this last week. I was not clear on what they're taking on here.
Well, I think there's problems going on with child protective services, with welfare and family law issues. They've taken a lot of testimony from judges, attorneys, and health and welfare who all say the system seems to be working, that kids are being protected, and we are getting them the care that they need. But then we get a lot of testimony from parents who say their kids were taken from them and put with the abusive parent, that their kids are being taken from them, put into a care system that is not suiting the kids' needs. And even by their own admission, some of the literature they put out there is that there were something like 15,000 assessments made on kids, and 89% of them said the kids were just fine. That means the 11%, about 1,700 kids, are not in safe circumstances. And it's a broken system. The child protective services, they don't tell people their rights before they invade their homes or invade their kids' privacy. And there's some reform needed there. We need to protect the rights of parents and the safety of kids and not have the system abused by unsafe parents or guardians.
Is that going to be a priority in the upcoming session?
I would hope so. My faith in task forces is not very high. They usually meet a few times during the interim, come up with some window dressing type ideas, but I don't see much great things coming out of task forces. Uh, Certainly, these things could be done during the legislative session, but for some reason we spend a lot of extra money on it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the NEA and this fascination they have with Marxism.
Well, my wife and I were having dinner. We said, "Hey, let's put something on the TV." And so I went to YouTube and I grabbed the video of the 2025 National Education Association convention and the president's speech.
I am Becky Pringle. I am the great-granddaughter of people who were kidnapped from the Ghanaian region of West Africa.
33 minutes of nothing but Marxist nonsense. It
Wow.
was it was a it was a social activism, Marxist, want to change society type speech. She mentioned education maybe twice, and it wasn't about educating kids. It was about educating the society to meet their norms. She sang a song.
Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh.
But she didn't mean the freedom I meant. She meant the freedom where some people get to live off the work of others because they view some things as rights when they're actually requiring the labor of others. And big fans of DEI, even hated the words, the letters DEI. They want to use the words.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Say the words. Say the words.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion. And they repeated them in a mantra, kind of like a socialist convention. But it was eye-opening. Spend 33 minutes, watch that video, and you'll see what we're up against in terms of freedom and the threats to it.
All right, one final issue here. This one, I had to do a double take. Sounds like Twin Falls is really taking snow removal seriously. So seriously that for a fee, they'll actually let you plow your own residential street. What?
I know. See, I thought it was the city's responsibility to plow the roads. I thought that's what your property taxes were for, was road maintenance, at least in part. But apparently they have this policy where they weren't plowing their residential streets. And so residents are like, we'll plow our own streets. Twin Falls says, sure, no problem. Just buy a $75 permit and make sure you're insured, so you can plow your own residential streets. I, I I had to do a double take. I'm like, really? This reminded me of the old Tom Sawyer story where he had to whitewash the fence, right? By pretending like it was a privilege, he got all his friends to do it for him. This is Twin Falls saying, oh, do your own streets and pay us for the privilege. I couldn't believe it. It's like saying if I wanted to homeschool my kids, I have to pay for a permit to homeschool my own kids. I was blown away. I would look at that. If I was in Twin Falls, I would call up every city council member and say, what in the heck is going on? We shouldn't have to clear our own streets to begin with. In fact, you ought to be paying us to clear our own streets.
Here, here.
Amazing. But anyway, those are just thank you for the questions. These are just the snippets of what's been going on around this state and mostly in Boise. And so we'll keep our eye on it. We're keeping our eye on local government corruption. We're keeping our eye on state budgets and everything going on. It seems that things are very busy even in the off season. So Ron's Weekly Windup, another edition, October 29th. And Bryan Hyde, thank you for hosting.
Thank you.
Peace out, friends.